Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. I've just had a mare then. I don't know why. It's not even been a while since I've hosted a show. I went to click end stream before we'd even started. That was an interesting one. And for those of you who were in the TikTok live yesterday expecting Charlie, it's your eyes aren't deceiving you. Have had to do a late swap. Charlie out, Andrew in for this week. So we're going to have.
Say Charlie's had a rough night. That's all I had.
But yeah, literally high, and that would have been the quickest show we've ever done if our intro gone. Don't say anything else. Hello, everyone in the chat as well. There's lots, obviously, to get through. I can't lie to you, this comment really did make me laugh, though, just before we end up. Because there's always the usual, and 5-minute delay, kind of fixing it, all that kind of stuff. That was what I was expecting. That's not a comment I thought I was going to see. And it really did make me laugh. For those of you who follow my Twitter, you would have seen I had a bit of an interesting weekend at a certain hotel. I won't out them on here, but yes, I did get my privacy a little bit invaded by a random couple somehow getting access to my hotel room, which was an experience I never thought I'd be saying.
I've told you before about leaving your key in the bar, Connor. It's always going to come back and bite you one day.
Yeah, that really did put me off. So anyone who saw me on Sunday morning, I was shattered because I didn't get much sleep after that. So, for obvious reasons, but there we go. So we get into the game because that's a whole other conversation. But there we go. There's obviously a lot of you in the. Honestly, you're telling me. This was just for quick context. This was at 1:00 in the morning, so it was a shock for them and a shock for me. Who I had to quickly run down to reception to find out what on earth had gone on. But yeah, that was my weekend. It didn't quite go how I thought it was going to go.
And can we just find out what exactly did the receptionist think of your Superman pajamas?
That is terrible.
He's not denying it, though, is he?
I don't have Superman.
There you go. Rumors get started on the internet if you don't debunk them.
I only bang on, literally. For everyone I've told this story to, they found it hilarious. For me, no.
I would say this story has only just marginally beaten Andrew's story about Brian Robson, so I'm loving life.
I was going to say, it's we've all got some stories to tell on here, haven't we? So, but there we go. Right, let's get into the game then, because that's why you're all here to talk about yesterday's 1-1 antics. The men mirroring the women, funnily enough, both 1-1 draws yesterday. But we'll get into all of that from the women's point of view. We'll start as we usually do the lineup. There was one change for this one. Ethan Mannion did come in at right back. So Mark was listening to me on this occasion and slotted Aoife in at right back, and Bizet was played in the forward line. Just as we usually do. Barry, well, I know you are going to have a complaint with it because I saw your message when we saw the team, but are you pretty happy with that? Because, I mean, we've been calling out for a defender to actually be playing at right back. We finally got that, in this case, and Bizet was further forward. So are you pretty content with that?
So many things. Sort of mention about all of this. Where do we go? Listen, I don't need to keep on repeating the fact that Maëlle Tissier, for me, should play right back if we do not have Jade Riviere available. I'm not going to keep repeating that, so people can just take that as read. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. I just think we'll get into it more as we move on through the show. But it feels to me like he really is shoehorning. He's watched too much AFU is what's basically happened here, because he's seen so many of your top 11s and people try to should we shoehorn this player into that position just so we can get them in, and as a result, now see what you've mistaken me for here, mate. I just want to point this one out, is he asked me for my opinion and I gave it, and that's how we play the game. So I shan't just let it go, because that's literally my point. What I will say, Connor has happily said, I've been waiting for a defender to go in. Well, look what you got. So I'll throw that one at you. Look what you got. Everybody's sitting here like, we need Barry to cheer us up. Well, we want me to cheer you up. Put her in bloody right back. It's very easy. Like, football is not a hard game. And this is what I was trying to get at. We are making it harder than we need to because of the fact that we are putting players in positions that they're not used to. It's not just there. He's putting Tooney out at left wing. That's not her position. Like, when has Ella Toon ever been effective coming in from the left? Name me a game. Because if you're the manager and you're making that decision, you're sitting there and going, well, she did very well in that game. That's why I've chosen to do it. What game? It's never happened. She is effective behind the front. How she works in the 10. That's her position. It's the position she's made a name in. It's why she did so well in England, playing in that position. And it's not rocket science. And I don't know why we are continually doing that. And because we're doing this, like, I'm positive about the result because it's Arsenal for a start. And I think a draw against Arsenal is not the end of the world. And it still very much keeps us in contention with all of the teams in and around us at the top. But I can't keep sitting here and saying I'm delighted with what we're doing with the squad when I'm not happy with what we're doing with the squad. I mean, I can't keep sitting here and just trying to be positive just for the sake of being positive. He's now had a good run of games, and this is just after an international break. He's had a good run of games where he can get people in. We've got over the fact that Gabby George was injured, and she now seems to be back into the position she should be in. I'm just a little bit tired, and this goes across the men's game as well, of managers fiddling about with stuff that don't need fiddling about with. Like, they're making Claudio Ranieri look like he never made any changes whatsoever. It's a madness what we are doing in terms of, and what gets me is he tinkers in terms of putting certain players in certain places whilst refusing to move people. Like, your argument about Aoife Mannion was that she has played more right back games than May Letitia. Well, that's probably because she's, a decade older. And that's like the whole purpose of the situation. So was I delighted? No, I wasn't. The response I gave to you when you told me that Aoife was going to be playing right back was eyes to the ceiling. And that's kind of where I am. So was I happy with it? No, I wasn't. Will I take the result? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's it. And I will just say, I want to talk about Aoife as a separate point, actually, because I actually thought she was quite good at right. But my reason for that is purely just so we're more defensively sound. And the game she has played, particularly against Arsenal, she's done very well. And Mark did give a reason to this. I think Tim asked Mark the question in the post-match about why Aoife was the right back in this situation. It was something I'll have to go re-listen to what he said. I can't actually remember off the top of my head, and I should have written this down. It was something to do with cutting off the wide channels or something like that, and Aoife was the best option for it because Jade was only just coming back from injury. Jade was never going to play this full game. I said this on the preview that there was, I hope you got the hint of what I was trying to say, that there was no chance she was playing more than what she did because her and Melvine for that matter, because they've literally just come back from injuries themselves. So I was pretty content from that point of view. It's the midfield that I've got a big issue with, which I'm sure we're going to get to as we go through it.
Just before we jump to Andrew, just want to point, I am going to go dark a couple of times during this because I'm a very happy man at the moment because I wanted a crusty roll with soup. I really wanted one of these for quite a while, and I have my soup and I have my crusty rolls all sorted, but nobody needs to see me jabbing that into my mouth. So when I'm disappearing, just imagine the smile on my face as I'm enjoying my crusty roll and soup and listening to the dulcet tones of Sir Andrew of the Wall.
I was going to say, follow that. Yeah, I'm saying on the lineup. So Skinner's, similar 11. He started in each of the last two matches. I mean, Celine kept her place, but she's moved further forward. So she's playing provider for Grace and Turlin as well. So and Aoife Mannion coming in at right back, as I say, she did okay. But it's obviously second half he made the change for Jay, but I think that was probably Aoife, first game of the season. It's like, there's going to be tiredness creeping in, and so we have the usual partnership of Millie and Mary at the back, and Janssen acting as the defensive midfielder. But for our defence on the day, there was plenty of work for them to do on the day. So Arsenal were pinning us back at times, and say say they did a good job in keeping Arsenal away from most of the time. Well, until we conceded the goal, but it was just further forward we had the struggles, and where I don't think we had. I say the first 5 or 10 minutes we looked like we were going to be at it, and then we kind of just lost a bit of shape going further forward as well. So I just don't know why. I know you can't go a whole 90 minutes, at full pace. There's going to be times where you're going to have to slow things down, and just take stock of the game. But I think, as Barry mentioned about Tooney, I was saying before, just better backstage, I said, Tooney on the left wing, it's not her natural position for me. It's just, she's not a pacey winger. She'll get on the ball, but then she'll have to stop and then cut back. So, as Barry said, she needs to be further in where she can have an influence. So, I'm not saying number 10 role, but sort of Grace can sort of play that role as well. So, I'm just thinking, where do you fit Tooney in, trying to accommodate her as well? So, but as I said, with Lisa going off, I thought, could you move Tooney to where Lisa was playing? So she just played just a bit off Janssen as well. So, like, get on the ball and get on the half turn and start pinging some passes along and just being an influence in the attack. But, yeah, I felt like it was a frustrating day for Turland as well. She's like, just left a bit isolated as well in terms of service. Which is, the subs were the key as well. So just helped us get back into the game. But it was just a bit of a frustrating day at LSV, but let's say I was thinking at 60 minutes, I was thinking the way where Arsenal were pinning us in, I thought, would I take the point now? Yes, but if we could snatch a winner, then all the better. But let's say, in the grand scheme of things, I'd take it. If we couldn't get through, I'd take the point. So it's better than nothing in the end. But yeah, it was so frustrating. We didn't do what we could do.
I think that's the thing. I'm going to say this throughout the show. I think as the game went on, I was like, I would 100% take a point out of this because we were way off Arsenal, particularly in that second half. I think you only have to look at some of the stat numbers. I mean, every stat metric, Arsenal are up, apart from defensive actions, which obviously we are massively up because we had a lot of defending to do in the game. But obviously kept it to one. And we'll do it in chronological order as we always do, because you mentioned the first half. And I actually said to Emer after the first 10 minutes, and I was like, we are playing a lot higher than we usually do. And we were getting at Arsenal. I thought, oh, I like this. Like, we were really pressing from the front, really going at Arsenal. I thought, okay, if this is what the setup is today, I can see us really getting something out of this. But for whatever reason, and I don't know whether, I can't remember where Arsenal had a dangerous attack, or something must have happened after about 10 minutes. I've not watched the full game back yet, so I don't know. But something happened around that time, and we just dropped 20 yards or so. And then from then, for the next 80 odd minutes, we just could not get back into the game, from a controlling point of view. And that first half was a bit all over the place anyway, for both teams, not just for us. I don't remember Arsenal having that many too many good chances in the first half either. But Barry, I'm not surprised, I guess, but that first half in particular, there's obviously a lot of people talking about the midfield, but because I spoke about on the TikTok live yesterday, and I think Truce just put this about where we set up to counter-attack, because that's genuinely what it looked like to me. We were almost like happy to let Arsenal have the ball. We were going to sit in a bit and then hit them on the break, which for me is fine. But as you've alluded to a little bit, you've got Ella Toon on. Well, to be fair, Tooney actually started down the middle. For those people saying Tooney was out of position, she wasn't for the first 20-odd minutes. Then her and Grace swapped, and Tooney went out on the left, and Grace went central. But either one of those out on the left, they're not going to beat the fullback. I don't know who is the. It would have been Emily Fox in this case, who was rapid. For those of you who've ever watched her, she's unbelievably quick. Tooney or Grace are not going to beat the opposition fullback in a 1v1 like a normal winger would, getting to the byline and so on. So I don't know what my question is, Barrington. Just how would you sum up the first half, really? Because for me, it just seemed like we set up in a way, changed that in the second half, but the personnel didn't suit the setup that we were trying to go in. And when we brought the players on that would suit that setup, we changed it again. I don't quite know what we were trying to do, to be honest. Albeit that first half, I think for both teams, I think as Amara's put, was a little bit cagey for both.
Well, Connor, congratulations, because you have answered the question that you have asked.
Oh, have I?
You have. which is absolutely amazing. Because you haven't got a clue what's going on. And let's be frank, the players probably haven't got a clue either, because they're changing them about too often. Apart from the obvious idea that you've just said, that we've mentioned about Tooney being in the wrong spot, then you're moving Grace over, swapping her over. By the way, is Grace a left midfielder? We ever seen her doing that? I'm pretty sure that's not what she was doing when she was, winning awards whilst playing for.
The mad thing is, sorry, just very quickly on that, Barry. She has played on the wing before, but only on the right. So why we didn't put Celine, who has played on the left, actually on the left, and Grace on the right, I've got no idea what the reason for that was.
That's what
but we put Grace on the. I'm like, what? I don't get it. I really don't.
And that's it. That's the whole point, is that we are pushing the players around into situations. And like, even this idea, you've spoken about it before, where we have fullbacks that then become inverted and they move into the midfield rather than being a fullback. Like, honestly, why are we making football so difficult? It makes you just wonder, because we're not working with players that have dominated football. We're playing with players that are very, very, very good players, but if they were top of the business players as a collective, they'd be playing for Chelsea. They'd be playing abroad. They'd be doing things like that because they'd have been snapped up already. And we're not quite at that position. And I think that's the bit that's doing it, is that we're genuinely struggling in terms of switching players around. And there's a time and a place for it. Don't get me wrong. Switching wingers is not new. Fergie was doing that for years. Like, that's literally part of the ability to attack. From one point, the fullbacks feels like they've got the measure of one. Switch them over, all of a sudden they've got a new person they've got to deal with, and so now it's a bit trickier for them. They can't just do what they were doing before. You keep them out of their comfort zone. You keep them working. That makes sense. But again, these are usually players that can play on either side. So you mentioned Bizet. Absolutely, she can probably do that quite easily. But it doesn't always translate. And that, to me, I think, is the problem. We're starting players and putting players in. It's just being shoehorned. It's almost as if he feels like there's a certain group of players that he has to play. And it was why people got upset with Katie Zellum, because he was constantly putting her in a position that maybe wasn't necessarily the one she was most comfortable with. And that was why people were having a go. But that wasn't just him that did that. The other managers did that as well. So, I just think that it's that's your big problem right there. And you have answered it. The fact that you're not sure what's going on, you could see it. Like, there's times where you can see, just like it was last season, players coming over to listen to what's being said. And then by the time they've got back on the pitch, they look like they've just been given the instructions in a language that they don't understand, because they're not sure what's going on. So in answer to your question, very, very simply and very, very easily, that's the issue. The counter-attack idea isn't bad. The whole first half wasn't terrible. And we need to be clear as well, when we start talking about shots on target, Imara mentioned it earlier, they weren't that great. They had 19 shots, only 4 of them on target. So, we were keeping them away from really causing any danger in front of PCJ. So, yeah, I think for me, that is the big thing. We're trying to do too many intricate things, whereas actually, this, to be fair, right? We said this last year, and this is probably it. When he sits there and says, we can't play this player in that position yet because they need 40 games getting used to it, you can understand why now, because it's like trying to read how to code for beginners if you haven't got a clue how to code. You've got to sit there and spend time doing it. And that's what he's doing. Whereas actually, if he just input the basics and did it a bit at a time with the bits that he wanted, with the players that he wanted to actually be in that position, rather than just the players that he thinks could possibly do it for now, we'd probably get somewhere. So that's my argument on that one. Fun fact here. Just want to throw this one out there. I haven't finished the soup yet. I'm going to go dark in a minute whilst we listen to Andrew again. And hopefully he'll get asked a question, which will be quite helpful. But fun fact here, Lee is actually my middle name. So you can call me Barry Lee. And actually, that does work. So well done you. And they're not crabs. That's the Manchester United crest on his curtains. Like, that's not. I don't understand how that's under the sea. You're gonna have to talk us through your wallpaper, and you're gonna have to show me which things which ones you think are under the sea crabs, because I've not seen this, and I've looked at that background for the last 2 years, and that's clearly footballers on the left wall. That's clearly Manchester United wallpaper on the back wall when we had the old red, white, and black, and that's the old curtains that I'm used to. So I want to know where you're getting these crabs from, which is not a thick question I thought I was going to ask in the middle of a show. But there you are.
Yeah. Before Andrew, you come to your curtains. Oh, hang on, Barry, you've left a comment on screen that's too far off me. Where is it? I can't get rid of it now. Just gonna have to stay on. Thank you.
There you go, mate.
But no, I think you're right, and this is why I said, like, when you've got Tooney on the wing, for example, I found it really frustrating because when she did get the ball out wide, because she hasn't got the pace to beat the fullback, she just stops. And it kills any counter-attack you've got, and then Arsenal get back into a defensive shape. Whereas I think defensively, we're actually okay. And I feel like you need the energy in the midfield if you're going to play like that. And there's a lot of shouts for Hayley Ladd all of a sudden, as we've been talking about throughout the season. I don't know what's happened with her in terms of why she can't get any minutes at all. But, you know, you throw back to the times where we were beating Arsenal and City and the likes of. Last season, Ladd hardly played any of those games. We lost all of them. The season prior, when she played nearly all of those games, we won most of them. And I think I'm not putting too much on that, but I will throw that out there because it frustrates me that she, for me, was a big reason as to why we were winning the midfield battles a lot in those games. We've taken her out and we've not fixed that since with the players that are now currently playing. And that's a little bit frustrating from my point of view. But Andrew, in terms of the first half, in terms of how you saw it, I think Mark said in his post-match that he saw it as a bit of a cagey one and very kind of back and forth. You know, a lot of people in the chat talking about the midfield battle as well. What did you make of that first half? Because you mentioned the start. You know, we kind of came out of the blocks, you know, flying almost, but didn't seem to continue that.
Seemed to just first 5 or 10 minutes was like, oh, as you said, pushing further ahead, but then it just tailed off, and I was like, listen, I know you can't be going full throttle the whole 90 minutes, but it just seemed to slow right down, and just like. And Arsenal started to get more confident on the ball. They moved it around and they're starting to assert their dominance, you know, on that half. So to say, probably was, in terms of it could be a little bit cagey in the start, but Arsenal seemed to grow it more. And I say Tooney did have a shot from distance, but it didn't amount to anything. But then as Arsenal grew more into it, especially Russo as well, she was starting to become more threatening, and you know, she was like having a few opportunities where she wanted to draw first blood out of us. But I think in terms of possession, Arsenal, you know, they look better in it, but we were a bit more firmer in our defence. You know, and the questions Arsenal were asking of us, you know, we were answering them. It's just when we was going further forward, we just kind of didn't have any answers where to go. And you could just see when we was, you know, playing out from our defence, it was like it was going from one side to the other. You could see where passes were going. It was like we're saying switch it over and then you can get on the attack. And it's like it's almost like you can read the game as it's going to happen. It's like you've got to make the opposition think a little bit. What are you going to do next? And just it's like telling them, you know, as I said earlier, just felt a little bit isolated and was getting no service. And she was like, you know, didn't have many opportunities that first half. But you know, as the first half went on, you know, it did open up a bit more, and both sides wanted to hurt each other. But I think Turner had a couple of chances. And that header that was crossed in from Celine, and I think saved by Dom Solar as well. But it just, you know, at the moment it seems, and we've said it before, similar problems are just cropping up in the build-up, the structure of it. You know, the lack of attack, and you know, and the fallout of, you know, that, you know, and just, you know, the width tactically as well. It just ended up giving Arsenal most of the ball, and I think the stats showed they had about 60% of the possession overall. So it was just like, but that was them, you know, hemming us in most of our own half. So, but I think going down at the tunnel half time, I think, you know, 0-0, just like, respecting, for us to then come out in the second half and really be a bit more dominant and take it to Arsenal. But it's just, that first half, just similar problems. Just rearing their ugly head, and it's just like you need to start changing in games, because you never know. Arsenal could have been, if they took some of their chances, they could have been 1 or 2 up, and then we're fighting a real uphill battle. But the defence, held firm. It's just going forward. There's got to be some options there, and different tactics are going to be tried. But let's say that's down to Skinner and the coaching team to do that.
No, I agree, and I think that's the thing for me. And I tweeted this just before half time. I was like, I hope we just get into half time level, and change it. And I really, to be honest, I didn't think we'd be able to come out worse than we were in the first half, but somehow we did. Because, as I said, our first shot in that second half was the goal, which was on the 82nd minute or 83rd minute. So we were really penned in the second half, which we'll come to in just a second. I think there was a question. I think I've missed it. There was Amara and TJ seem to be obsessing over your mic, Andrew, and I'm not entirely sure why. You sound the same as you always do to me.
I do want to try it, because this is quite. So can you unmute for a second? Is it good? Lovely. I would like you to say the following sentence: Manchester United will win the league.
Manchester United will win the league.
Can you now take your mic and can you put it closer to your mouth? And now can you say the same sentence again, please?
Manchester United will win the league.
Sounds exactly the same.
What sounds, but does sound louder, but that's all it sounds. It's just louder. Which did you prefer, Amara? Did you prefer the first United win the league, or did you prefer the second United will win the league? Now, if you wanted to move your mic, you're going to have to point out which United will win the league it was and write it. So we'll see. There we go.
Yeah, Andrew can't hold the mic like that.
Oh, will it not move and stay?
No.
Why not?
Because he just does that.
It's one of those. Yeah, I've got one.
Yes. Okay. So I can't hold it all night.
All right.
Well, I mean, I can turn Andrew's mic volume up if you can't hear him properly. I'm realised I'm manually doing it here, and Andrew doesn't even know I'm turning his volume.
Ooh, say it again, Sam.
Man United will win the league.
Oh, look at that. That's louder. I bet everybody loves that. Perfect.
Oh, no idea. Anyway. It's all going on here. Anyway. We move on. Someone said about bringing the humour and making us feel better. I'm sure we're hopefully managing to do that a little bit. Anyway, the player of the match poll is in the chat, so you can vote on that. We were really torn actually with a couple of players, and looking at the vote splits, it's very even. So I'm glad that we've gone for the 4 that we did go for. So you got a choice: Malard, Bizet, Turner, or tullis-joyce for this week. So 4 different names. We've not really seen many of those names on. I think Fallon's been on a couple, but yes, something a little bit different. And the vote split's 33, 35, 17, 15. So it's closer than it ever has been for any other player of the match so far. So we'll come back to that at the end of the show, as we usually do. I still stand by that. They won't. They're not going to finish in the... No. This happens every season, and then they fall away. So I'm going to stand by that. My prediction, I might be wrong. We could come to the end of the season, I'll be massively wrong, but there we go. And there's obviously a bit of chat about Ladd as well. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the big one for me, and I do question the management of her. And if Sean's still in the chat, I know we had a little bit of a chat about Hayley Ladd and her time with Wales over the international break, and I think it's becoming visible with Wales that she's not the player that she was before, because she's just not playing at the moment. From a match fitness point of view. And yeah, I don't know. And as I said what I said. We've won most of our games in the against the traditional big 3 when Hayley Ladd has played. When she's not played, we haven't won one. So I think when you're looking at it from that point of view, it's yeah. Anyway, we move on. We'll move on to the second half then, because I said I didn't think the second half could get much worse. But I mean, from a defensive point of view, as we said, when you look at the stats, and this is from memory as well, Arsenal for me never I never thought all my life we're massively under the cosh here, like we were against Chelsea in the semi-final, for example, where it was just shot after shot and Mary made an amazing save and it really felt like we're hanging on. All it felt like was we just couldn't get control of the ball, and Arsenal just had so much possession, especially in our half. And I think when you look at the stats in particular for touches in the opposition box, we had 10, Arsenal had 50. That's a pretty big difference when you look at that from that point of view. Barry, in terms of the second half, what did you make of it from that point of view? Because we brought on Simi Awujo at half-time, which, to be fair, it is an injury to Lisa Nelson's. I'm not sure how bad yet, but to be fair, I would have made that change anyway. That was a change I was begging for, so I'm glad that happened. And then Jade Riviere and Melvine Malard came on in the 60th minute, and we conceded 2 minutes later by less series, which we'll talk about as a separate thing. So we made the subs that I think fans wanted to see, and they were the exact subs that I wanted, in terms of the players coming on and the players going off. But why do you think it was that we couldn't get control of the game again? Because as I said, it wasn't necessarily backs against the wall and really defending, but we just could not get hold of the ball. And whenever we did, we'd either kick it long back to the Arsenal centre-backs, or we'd try and dribble our way out, and we couldn't get past the first player, and we'd just given up possession again. So why do you think that was, that we maybe couldn't get that control back in the game?
I'm going to say something now that I don't like to say, actually, because it's not something that usually comes out of my mouth. But this time, I think you have to look at the coaching staff in terms of how they've chose to set up for the game, what they've chosen to do, and the fact that it's all well and good going in with a plan, and I'm sure they did. They did that. They come with a plan, but you need to be able to react to what's going on the pitch. Now, like you said, they made all the changes that you personally would have made as well, and that's a good thing. But as you say, sometimes we're going long, sometimes we're not. It's just not quite clicking yet, and I think that's the thing. And we need it to click, and we need it to click quick, because we don't have a long season ahead of us. We're already, about a quarter of the way through already. So it's going to be the end before you even sort of blink your eyes, really. And I just think it's so important that we get ourselves as a team properly clicking. Like, we look at Queen Elizabeth III. We were all so excited about having her beginning her reign of terror against the other teams in the WSL. And she's been a damp squib, because she's not getting the ball. She's not getting the chances. She's not doing as much as we would expect her to. Why is that? Well, that's got to come down to the way that we're choosing to play. Now, you could put this the same when you look at the men's team. It's so many things. We're not playing to our strengths. And that is not a good thing to do. When you do that, you're asking people to do things that they're not necessarily strong at. So you think about when you go to work, you know exactly what your job is because you've done it now over many, many years. That's how, work works. But if somebody asks you to do something that's outside of what you would normally do on your day-to-day, it might take you a little while to get used to it. And depending on how good you are at it, this is the problem we've got. I think, to me, that seems quite clear. You look at the stats, as you said, they had 4 shots on target, like I said. Amazingly, 3 of those were big chances. They missed their 3 big chances. The one they scored wasn't even a big chance. So we do need to put a bit down to Arsenal as well. They weren't that great. They had everything in terms of the stats, but they were poor. This was not an Arsenal side. You could argue it was an Arsenal side that was there for the taking. You could argue this was an Arsenal side where we could have gone and got 3 points and not have to work as hard as we have done in the past. We just didn't. And this is the whole thing. It's so frustrating. We've got players. Jays will go around and take players on for fun. Bizet will cross balls in. And that's how Turland's got the couple that she scored already. We've got players that are capable of doing things, and we're not using them for the things that they are best at. And that is just criminal. It really is. It's criminal. And when it comes down to that, you have to, unfortunately, start looking at what's going on within the coaching and question why it is that the team are not, at this point, now starting to click. Now, we can sit there and keep saying it's coming, but when? Like, so's Christmas, so's death, everything's coming, everything's on its way, just a question of when. And genuinely, like, that's what you're laughing, but it's true. It's all coming. So we've got to get ourselves to a point where actually, we can just. I'd rather it was sooner rather than later. I'd like to still be alive at the time when Manchester United women actually win the league. It's meant to be this season, Mark. So, just put the right players in the right places and get them to play football. Like, they should be enjoying it. They shouldn't be sitting there struggling to understand what they're doing.
No, and I agree. It's interesting to highlight Turland in particular, because I think, as True said in the chat, that Turland had 2 shots, Russo had 8. In the game, because there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, Russo, is still a better." I mean, she's not a better striker than Turland, and I would argue if Turland had the chances Russo had, Turland scores at least 3 of them. But even the touches, Russo had 37, Turland had 17. In the whole game that she was on as well, and they played similar amount of minutes. They're just we are not getting the ball. Turland had 1 chance. It says she had 2 shots. Did she? I don't remember the other one. I remember the header. I don't remember her having another one.
It's the only one I remember is the header in the first half.
She must have had another one, because obviously she's down as having 2, but I genuinely don't remember what that was. But this is what I mean. And I agree, TJ, they did, and this is what I mean. We didn't have an out ball. And as I said, when you're trying to play counter-attack, you can do that. And like I said, the subs were right. You bring on Melvine, and to be fair, there was a lot of people saying, why didn't Melvine start and that kind of thing. She is coming back from it. Her and Jade, I understand. Jace is the one I'm a little bit annoyed at, because she was more fit than the other 2. So I get that. You bring them on to make a bit of an impact. But then we stopped playing like that. We stopped going direct, and we tried to play our way out. Well, that's not playing to the player straights either, because then you've swapped the players that were good at that. I don't know. It's baffling to me. Andrew, before we get to the Arsenal goal, then, what did you make as a second? You kind of touched on it in your last bit there. I mean, why couldn't we get a control of the game? Because many fans were looking at Lisa and Dom in particular, that they weren't particularly keeping the ball very well. Lisa went off, Simi came on. I thought she was okay. Didn't think she was amazing, and we still couldn't. We were actually even worse at trying to get the ball back. As I said, I think Arsenal had about 60+% of the ball in the second half.
Yeah, I was going to say I agree with the half-time substitution. It was very rare Mark Skinner to make substitutions at half-time, but I thought I agree with that one. Lisa, even though it was an injury, she wasn't having her best game, and so the time she was getting on the ball, it was just like Arsenal closing her down and nicking the ball off her. Equally, she went out of position. She was chasing the ball down and getting it back, but it just, when she had it, wasn't being very effective with it. So I agree with the substitution being made, but for, those players, the creators in our side like Celine and Tooney, they hardly saw any meaningful possession in the setup, and Grace Clinton was asked to do a lot as well when she had the ball, and trying to progress as well. So it's just the second half, Arsenal just picked up where they left off, and just made sure we couldn't get into the match at all. And just pinned back in our own half for about 25-30 minutes and just struggling to get out. Turland was just like getting further away from the action and just like couldn't do much in terms of an attack. But Arsenal were pushing, and they trying to get that goal, and it's down to the defence, and especially Millie and May. It's come up with some good pieces of defending, and they didn't disappoint. So you could argue as well, it's just some of the unforced errors we were just making as trying to get beyond the Arsenal press in that second half as well. So let's say, I think Skinner said after the game, Arsenal probably feel like they should have won the game, and he said, "Oh, that's on them," but they didn't. So he did say, "Oh, we weren't at our best today," but he's probably right in that we weren't at our best. And on reflection, taking the point is probably take it. But yeah, it's just United just don't know, things didn't seem to happen. And obviously, when Arsenal scored, it forced us to come out a bit more, and the changes did help, and rather than going the more direct approach helps. So it's just like maybe you should have done that before with the players, rather than, and maybe that would have worked against Arsenal, but relying on the substitutions to go that way as well. But yeah, I just applaud our defending, because Arsenal could have, scored more than there once. And as I say, I know we're going to talk about the goal, and it just had to be Russo that did it. But as I say, there's a few views when she did score, but as I say, she didn't celebrate too much. I always thought if it had been that, the reverse fixture at the Emirates, I think she would have been celebrating a lot more. But yeah, just the goal they scored, it forced us out, but we got back in. And then I was just hoping, as I was about to leave for the men's game, I thought, can we just see a winner? But it just wasn't to be as well. But yeah, just, and in a bit of a frustration, we couldn't get into the game a lot more and take it to Arsenal. But credit to Arsenal, they kept us back in. They did.
Yeah, and to be fair, Amara, you're going to like this, because I'm going to say this and then I'm never saying it again. But I actually thought Russo was pretty good in the game, overall. But
you've learned nothing, have you? Nothing. You did a best draft.
Charlotte, she was,
and everybody disowned you. And what you heard was, say it again.
I mean, she was what we needed, actually, in terms of holding the ball up, because that's exactly what she did. She brought the runners of Ford and Caldente, and then Fox was coming in as well. We needed that. If we were good, that's kind of what we wanted to do, but we weren't doing it. in that sense.
Agree, yeah.
However, I will say she missed an awful lot of chances. And as I said, I think if they fall to Turland, she scores them. And I wish that Turland did get that kind of service, because Turland would have been on hat-trick yesterday. But wasn't to be.
That's better. Put it back. Well
done. Yes, I'll pull it back. But I do agree with Andrew in terms of the amount of block. And I don't think any of the backline really was exceptional, but what they did do is get in the way of a lot of shots. There was a lot of clearances between them, because there was a lot of crosses coming in as well they had to deal with. So I think from that point of view, they were very good. I do think the backline actually of us caused us a little bit more problems. I think Maya and Gabby in particular were giving the ball away a lot, which then led to an Arsenal chance. So it's almost like they were making more work for themselves by keep giving the ball away.
There's points in the game where Fallon was playing it short as well. And then was creating our own problems. And I could see Millie talking to me. I was like, just calm everything down. I was like, well, you're creating your own problems here. So maybe start going a bit longer, because, sometimes the short ball was causing us a lot of problems. And Arsenal were just, getting the ball back, and then was like under more pressure. So, yeah, it was like, it just kept going from one side to the other. It's just like, start playing a few longer balls or over the top balls, like I know Maya can do, which she didn't seem to be. Well, couldn't really seem to do that in the second half there.
No, and I agree with what Jay just put about Gabby struggling 1v1. And that's all. It wasn't helped again, because especially until Tooney went off, Tooney was out on the left. She wasn't tracking back as much as she normally would or should. So then Gabby was just getting doubled up on. Their goal, actually, it's a perfect time to talk about, actually, because it's down that side. It's Emily Fox, their Arsenal's right back, that is cutting into the inside channel. We've got nobody picking up that runner, because Gabby's on a 2v1. She's got, I think it was Ford at the time, and Emily Fox on the inside. What's she supposed to do? I don't know where Gabby's supposed to go then. Obviously, I mean, is there much to say about the goal, Bar? I mean, it was coming, to be fair. I tweeted it at the time that we were playing with fire for a while, with chances like that, and one of them were going to go in eventually. Yeah, I mean, it had to be earned, didn't it? But I mean, a goal against us for her was coming at some point, but it's just annoying that it was at LSV, I guess.
Listen, the movement she had was good. I'm not going to take anything away from her from the goal. It was just great finish and great movement from Leslie Russo. But the problem was, we started off with the ball, like you say, at the left back position, but she's forced back. So we're actually moving back away from goal before it gets moved into the middle of the park. And then there's that movement from Russo where the ball gets through. The thing is, when you start looking at what's going on with that, it's like, again, players just aren't quite where they need to be. We weren't closing down. We weren't pressing as much as we'd like to press. I think Mallard was about there. And, I mean, TJ's put in there, Mallard didn't track back. What about midfield? Like, again, we're sitting here talking about these players. And again, all of this, the problem you've got, right, let's just be brutally honest about this now. The issue you've got as a manager is that if you start doing all these clever show pony tricks, like taking a central defender and moving them into a defensive midfield position, taking a defender who would probably be better off at centre-back and not replacing her with the centre-back who would probably be better off at right-back for that situation. If you're going to take an attacking midfielder, a central attacking midfielder, and put her out on the left-hand side, if you're going to take someone who's never really played left wing before, but has played it as 10 or on the right, and then all of a sudden stick them on the left, if you're going to make those sorts of decisions, it has to pay off. Because the minute it doesn't start to pay off, this is where you give your fans the ammunition to sit there and say, well, if you just did this. And it's because he's not even tried. Like, if we had Hayley Ladd instead of Dom Janssen, if we put Dom Janssen in at centre-back, if we just, Millie Turner was our best defender. She was our best defender yesterday. So, why is it such an issue? Take May Letitia, put her on the right. Take Ella Toon and either put her on the bench or put her in the 10. But put the players where you know they're going to go and then try it. And if you're trying to tell me that at this stage of Mark Skinner's managerial reign, that he still doesn't have a squad of players that he believes in, then we need to say, serious questions have got to be asked. Because you can't be 3 years into this and not have a settled 11 first team. You can't be. You just can't be. And if that's where we are right now, that's a problem. And it all comes down to this goal. It really does. Because none of the players are doing what they're supposed to do for this goal. Not one of them. Gabs is struggling. They're all struggling. And they're struggling because we're making stupid... Sorry. What a fool. Why have I put myself at we? He is making a stupid decision. And I try my hardest, and I will still be positive when we get to the end of this particular show. But genuinely, he's making it harder for himself. It's the same situation that Ten Hag had, because he was putting players into the wrong positions. He's getting them to do stupid things. It's not hard. Football is one of the easiest games ever. Why is he making it hard, Connor?
Well, I don't know. I'll just want to bring something up very quickly because I can't show the goal for copyright reasons and everything else. But when you look at that still, for example, there, and you're talking about where's the midfield in the goal. I mean, that's you can all see this. Janssen's there. Mallard's looking over. Grace is pointing, saying, watch Fox, because that's exactly where Fox runs into, is that massive gap. And this is my issue. You're playing a double pivot, which is fine. If you want to go a bit more defensive, Janssen and Simi, they're a bit too far apart for my liking, but it is what it is. For me,
gets passed around.
Exactly. And this is what happened all game. If you're going to play a double pivot, that's got to be more defensive than that, because otherwise there's no point. You may as well be playing as a single and play more on the front foot. The whole reason you play a double pivot in the defensive situation is to be more compact. We're well away from being compact. We're as open as anything. And this happened throughout the whole game.
But Mallard, Mallard at this point, is she playing on the left?
She's supposed to be,
yes.
Why is she on the bloody middle? Like, this is what I mean. Why are you telling your forward left side player you've got to run into the middle? You're making people run into funny places. Look, if you want me to play left wing, Mark, I stay on the left wing. What's hard to understand about that? So, if anything, Mallard should be closer to that ball than Janssen, who should be exactly where Grace Clinton is pointing. Who's our 10 at this point? Where are they?
I think it is Clinton at this point, or it should have been anyway. Yeah, Clinton and then Bizet was on the right, wasn't she? So, yeah, that's your three.
So, Grace is spotting the danger, but who's she shouting? Which player of teammate is she shouting to get there? To, I can see the danger coming. Who's she shouting at to, cover the tracks? Is it Malard or?
But again, even without that, look at where Russo is. She's got 2 players on her. So she should not be getting that last touch.
Well, I think it's the thing, isn't it? And this is what Mark's reasoning for. I know this isn't on Aoife's side, but the reasoning for the fullbacks in this case was to stop exactly this: that the inside runners from the opposition fullback. Because McCabe did this a lot as well. I think that is McCabe all the way over there, actually. But it's to stop this, and this is why and people are probably get sick of me talking about, but this is why I hone in on the midfield so much, and why I think the midfield is an issue for us, because this was happening with Lisa in there, whoever it is, this partnership where Dom is, just for me, just isn't what we were giving up these chances against Spurs, against West Ham, against Everton, against Brighton. Every game we've played this season, similar kind of things have happened because our 2 holding midfielders or 2 players that are sitting further back are far too far apart. And I said it's not compact. You defend it. It sounds such like a buzzword that gets thrown around when you talk about these things about being compact. I'm with you, Barry. Mallard really has got to be I think that is that Volti. I think I don't know who that is.
Dente, isn't it?
I can't. Yeah, no, yeah, it might be.
Right.
And obviously Beth Mead is there to drag Gabby out, which is fine. That happens. But then Dom would be there because she's your sitting midfielder. She's the one that's screening the back line and holding that position. But because the players are a bit all over the place, I think the reason why I brought this screenshot up is because for me, this sums up the game and how chaotic it was from our point of view and why we couldn't really keep the ball. Because when we do get the ball back, I know this is the goal. Players are all over the place. So they're not in the positions they would normally be because they're being dragged everywhere. And we didn't react, for me, to that. And it just got a bit frantic. The game actually getting frantic towards the end suited us because that's how we played for most of the game. So Arsenal getting a bit all over the place suited us because it made us, obviously got the crowd up and everything else, but it suited how we played, which is what it is. But yeah, it's a worry for me. And I think, did they say, it was either on BBC or it might have been Izzy Christiansen that said it. Somebody has said this on either on a podcast or it might have been post-game, actually. It might have been Steph Horton talking about that United are going to have to accept that they're going to give up a lot of chances this season playing this way. And this is exactly what I said in pre-season when I understood what the system was going to be, that we are going to give up a lot of chances. Too many chances for my liking. But I think that's the problem that I'm leaning towards anyway. And I do agree, Norman, the defence is too deep. But this is the problem we had all game. We weren't like that in the first 10 minutes. We dropped deep for whatever reason, and we never recovered. So,
I don't think in that picture you can say the defence are too deep. Like whack it back up
maybe
again.
Maybe not in that one. Where's the thing gone?
Like as a general rule, yes, maybe the defence is a bit too deep. But again, in that picture, the defence is exactly where they are, where they should be. Sorry. So you've got 3, 6, 8 Arsenal players there. There's 3, 7, 9, 10. Like that's the whole Manchester United squad pretty much there. 4 or 5, 9 of them there. We've just got 1 out of shot. And they score from this. But again, it's about how they're set up. They're not set up. And I said this on the men's channel as well. There's too many people thinking that they're going to be the next big thing in football. And actually, the football match really comes down to knowing your opponents. And it shouldn't be hard to know Arsenal. All of these games are pretty much available for these professional clubs to see. So they should know the systems these teams are going to play. And they should see what's going on because these are people that pay a lot of money to get their coaching badges. And this is a big thing. If they're going to get these coaching badges, they need to be using that knowledge to react to what's going on. And it should be based on man marking. This constant zonal space malarkey, it's going to kill the game. It's going to kill the game because it's absolute balderdash. It's ridiculous. When was the last time you saw goal, 50th minute, space? Never. Because space is irrelevant. The last time you saw it, it was a player. And why was it a player? Because they move in the space. So don't mark the space, mark the player. Because if you mark the player, you'll be all right. It's not rocket science, kids. It ain't. It doesn't need Brian Bloody Cox. I can do it.
I want to see this here. Have we got anything else to add on the goal, or can we get to the one positive that we did have in the game?
I was going to say, for Russo, is, you know, the reward for the work she put in. I mean, I think before that she'd hit the post as well, so I didn't realise, you know, until today that was her first goal of the season. So I thought she'd score before that in the season. So as I said earlier, she didn't celebrate too much. So whether she was showing a little bit of respect for, you know, for United, but as I said, if it had been the Emirates, I don't think she would have. So, but yeah, say just as you said about chances, if we're giving up a lot of chances this season, but if we're going to do that, we've got to be equally good defensively, because if we don't start scoring any of the multiple chances we're getting, you know, it's going to catch us out, and we're going to be ending up not picking up at any points at all. So it's just a bit like with the men's side, you know, we're creating these chances, but we've got to start putting them away. Otherwise, you know, it's not good.
No, I agree, and I think, yeah, I agree with what Simon said there as well. That would, do you know what? I said this to Barry before we came live, that my first conversations with a lot of people when I was walking out the ground was exactly this. This is the first thing that a lot of people said to me when we left the ground, because obviously we do play Chelsea at the end of this month. We've got 3 games now in between now and Chelsea to fix an issue like this, because we saw what can happen at the back end of last season. If you don't defend well against Chelsea and are not on it for a full game, they have players that can really punish you in these games, and Chelsea will find yesterday as well. So they can score right now. They're scoring goals, you know, at the moment. If they're not like Arsenal, who are not scoring too many and have got an interim, so we definitely need to improve on that when we come back around to that game. But we'll come back to that. That's 3 weeks away. Yeah, we'll win 3 and then we'll go and beat them, hopefully, when we get around to that. But we did equalise. As I said, we are still unbeaten, just about, with our first shot in the second half, which I do find quite funny, actually, from an Arsenal point, because every Arsenal fan I met after the game, they were so annoyed that they didn't come away with a win, because somehow we managed to... But as I said, we stayed in the game, and, you know, as long as it's 1-0, this is what can happen. And it's why I said against Everton, actually, I wasn't totally comfortable at 1-0, because all it takes is that one moment, like what we had in this one. So, Brian, if you want to talk us through the Melvine goal, for us in the ground, I can't lie to you, I had no idea who scored until I was waiting for them to announce it, because I had no idea, being at the end of the ground, who'd actually put that in. But yeah, what did you make of the goal? It's not a scrappy one. I think it's a clever little flick, to be fair. From Malard, kind of stood in front of the keeper there. What did you make of that one?
Well, what did I make of it? Number one, credit to the girls, because they didn't stop. You know, sometimes it can be easy to get so het up about everything that's going on and lose track of what matters. Actually, I think they did really well to set the goal up in the way they did. Watching the goal back, it was, I mean, it's one of the worst goals I've ever watched in my life. Is the honest answer to that. You should never, and I don't mean that in a negative as in from the players, but like, if you put that the other way, right? Let's say we concede that, we'd be going ballistic, wouldn't we? Like, it's an atrocious one. It's not like she's even hidden. She's right there. Honestly, I don't know if you lot have ever played FIFA. Daphne Van Domselaar was your traditional FIFA keeper, because the ball's in the back of the net when she dives. It's the most belated dive. At first, I was going back to watch it again just to see if she'd been pushed over or if she was trying to pretend she'd been pushed over. But no, she was actually trying to grab the ball, which was already in the net, and it was like, honestly, watch it back. Imagine you're playing FIFA. It's the best thing ever. It reminds me of when my nephew took a penalty against me in FIFA, and sorry, no, it was the other way. I took the penalty, and it was the worst penalty I've ever taken. It rolled. Like, if you've ever seen Austin Powers, this isn't going to concern you, Connor. If you've ever seen Austin Powers where he's going, no, and you've got the steamroller coming towards him at the world's slowest pace, that's what this ball was doing. It gave the goalkeeper time to dive, stand up, and then dive again to get the ball. And that was what she reminded me of. So that's why it was bad. But from terms of what United did, excellent stuff. You know, we get the ball into that position. Keeper's unsighted, made it a bit difficult for her. Gets the little touch. Lucky, really. If she was a step further forward, she's going to head that over the bar rather than into the net. So as it was, it worked out perfectly. But I mean, there's no getting around today. I can't come on here and go, "That's brilliant, well played, everybody." Like it's attitude, effort, and endeavour. Then superb. But again, it's taken changes. It's not what we initially envisaged and what we initially started with. And again, when you go back to, if it ever works, the stats that we were looking at, we only had 6 shots and only 3 of those were on target. 2 of them were big chances. It's one of those where at the end of the day, the stats are very, very similar. And that comes down to the fact that we met an Arsenal side that were not at any stretch of their imagination at their best. This is, for me, probably a worse result than the Brighton one, insofar as, yes, we could have beaten Brighton. Maybe we should have beaten Brighton, but Brighton are playing better than Arsenal at the moment. So that's why I was less worried about it. Arsenal performing incredibly well. Stats, TJ, in terms of total shot, not total shots, but shots on target, ones that matter. You can have 100 shots, but if 99 of them aren't on target, it's pointless. It's irrelevant. That's what I know. There's big ones. Obviously, the main shots, God no, they had 13 more than that, but unluckily for them, well wide. So, yeah, listen, it's not a good day in terms of getting the goal. It wasn't brilliant, but we kept going. And that attitude from the girls was exactly the attitude that we had 2 years ago. That attitude of we're going to keep going. We're not going to stop. When we get to the end, we'll just keep going, keep going, keep going. And look at the number of times where we won a game right at the very end, or we pulled it back right at the very end. And that never say die attitude is vital when you're trying to fight for it. At the moment, the top 3 is still very much in our own hands. We can still jump above Brighton by doing that. No, I'm not overly worried, but I'm saying it now just so I don't have people thinking I'm just always that guy that comes in here and is completely positive. If he does not start to listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth, I'll say it right here, right now, he will not make it to the end of the season. He won't.
No, I agree with you. And I think I said at the start of this month that this will be a big test. If we go unbeaten this month, let's say we win the next 3 and draw away to Chelsea, I think that's all right. I think we're about where I thought we would be and want us to be as well. This is what I put on my tweet, that overall, I don't think the result was horrendous, but I equally don't think it was good. I think it was just like we salvaged a point in a game that we, on another day, maybe could have lost by the way that we performed. But in terms of the getting a point, I'm taking that because of how poor we were in terms of creating things at the other end. Andrew, for yourself, you did stick around to see the goal before you shot off to Old Trafford, so you did see it. But yeah, the goal itself, and I guess like Barry said there, that the fight in the team. Williams came on and was harassed a bit. Williams actually went full Phil Jones at one point, diving in with her head. I don't know if you saw that when she went to make a tackle and then she realised she wasn't getting it with her feet, so she threw her head in there to try and get it, which was quite something. But Jace as well, came on and made a big impact. It was Jace's ability down the right hand side that got us the corner in the first place, which obviously we scored from.
Yeah, saying the changes that Skinner did, bringing on Jace, Malard and Williams worked. And whilst many, the problems didn't go away in the build-up, it was the more direct approach, to give Jace the ball, represent, some more action in the closing minutes. I mean, she went straight to work, Jace did, running the defence, trying to put crosses in. And I love the fact that, she's going up against Katie McGowan and them two, squaring off to each other. I thought, oh, this is good to see. But as I say, and one of the crosses by Jace, resulted in the corner that led to the goal. So it was a bit like pinball in the box, and it was a bit scrappy. And Malard, rather than ducking out the way of the header from Rachel Williams, he just gave the ball the extra nudge on. You can see from looking back at it, you can just see Kim Little just grabbing Malard all the way from the corner. It's just like if the referee hadn't noticed that all Malard went down, you could say argue for a penalty for it, but luckily Malard just nudged it beyond the keeper. So bit of a scrappy goal, and you can see us all celebrating in the crowd as I was spotted on TV. So, but yeah, it's just we needed to get back into it because it's just all can't come away with no points from this, and as you said earlier, it's a big month this month, and I'll take the point, but there's got to be positive results, in the next couple of games against league games against Villa and Leicester before we play Chelsea, because if there's not, more questions are going to be starting to ask about that side, and also Skinner and the coaches as well. So yeah, I thought I was going to nick a winner at the end. As I say, I was hanging on, and before I ducked out to go to Old Trafford, but yeah. So Arsenal just turned it back around, and they were trying to nick their own goal as well.
No, absolutely, and yeah, as I said, I'm just happy we came away with something, because I was fearing the worst, to be honest, as that second half was going on. I thought, oh no, this is gonna get bad.
I was going to say McCabe should have been sent off, because obviously her and Jay squared. McCabe got booked, and then Jason McCabe squared up. Well, McCabe should have got another booking for the confrontation, so she essentially should have gone. So, but yeah, don't know on that one.
Yeah, that was a tough one. As I said, I can't repeat on here, I don't think, what I said at the time.
It was all like, well, McCabe squaring up and trying to, yeah.
Is it true, Connor, that you said, hang on a minute, weren't you just in my room?
Definitely not. But yeah, there was definitely some expletives shouted, that's for sure. And to be fair, like people will say, at women's games, with kids around and things like that. The kids, the kids behind us, they must have been, I don't know, early teens. Oh my life, some of the language. Couldn't believe me ears. Anyway, so it was worse than us, that one. We got a couple of things starred. There was a question Truth put in. This one about will match odds be permanent and things like that. I don't know is the answer. What I will say, obviously, for those of you who would have seen, he did an interview with BBC as well. I think he spoke quite well on that. I've heard good things around him, and to be fair, just the overall structure. We thought this was going to happen when you start to put a better structure in place and things like that. Anyway, but for now, if you're asking me now, I kind of hope so, because it's added a bit of stability there, and I think at the moment, I'm hearing some good things there as well. So we'll wait and see what happens on that. But yeah, it's one to keep an eye on, that's for sure, as we go on, because there's a lot of change going on behind the scenes, even now. Things that are going on. But there we go. Yes, they were really. I can't say on it, but yeah, there was one that really made me laugh.
We're
anyway,
not past the watershed yet.
No, not quite. We're nearly there. What are we now? 8:15. We're getting there. Right, well, should we come to player of the match and round this one off then? I'll leave the poll running for another kind of minute or so while we go around the panel and see where we're going for a player of the match. Andrew, I'll start with you first. Who would you have gone for player of the match?
Just because of our, the way we defended, I'm going to go for Millie. Looking back, back on the game, she put, several blocks in, and played a few diagonal passes across, trying to get us on the attack. But I think without our defence yesterday, we'd have been in a lot more trouble than we were, and we would have come away with, no points at all. So I'd say Millie, and Mayor, formed a great partnership, and so got to give it to Millie for yesterday.
Yeah, I think it's a fair shout. Barry, who would you have gone for?
I tend to side with my honourable friend across the floor in the red corner there. I would have given it to Malard just for scoring the goal. But yeah, I think, as I said before, Millie Turner was our best defender. So it's not a massive stretch to then go so far as to say she was our best player. So, yeah, I think it could have been worse without Mills.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. I was kind of torn on this one because I do feel like I think if Jace was on for longer, I would have put her on the poll and I would have voted for her. But I don't. She made an impact when she came on, but it wasn't long enough for me to, I guess, warrant a player of the match. I think all of them are fair shouts. I tweeted earlier that Bizet I thought was decent enough. She completed the most drills and won the most duels out of everyone on the pitch, including Arsenal players. So I think she is a good shout. Malard obviously got the equaliser. Fallon made a good save in the first half and was pretty solid throughout. But yeah, I will give it to Turner. And Shane, it's good that you mentioned this because we were talking about this backstage as well. That ping that she did, one of the only times we did it, actually, where she was looking to the left and then she kind of swapped foot and with her left foot pinged it out to Bizet. Brilliant. That was one of the few times we managed to do that. So yeah, I'll give it to Millie as well because as people know, I would prefer to see Janssen at centre back. So I feel like I should give Millie her props when I think that she's done well, and I think she did do well in this one. With some crucial cross. She was first to it as well.
Nobody cares what we think. What have the public said? This is like watching the election results. I don't care what David Dimbleby or Lincoln Jeremy Kyle thinks. What did the people say?
The people agree with us. I've ended the poll now. I can't see it. Can anyone see it in the chat? What it's ended as? Millie was winning. Millie was on 39. Oh, wait, we'll just say Millie. I've got it. Millie 39, Fallon 32, Celine 14, Melvine 13. So,
have you got it? Have you found it?
Yeah, I've just read it out.
Good. I thought you made it up there for a minute.
Yeah, all right. That's what it is. I just pick random numbers from it. That's what it is. Yeah, Millie wins on 39.
Get the right person.
So there we go. That's the first time we've all agreed. All three of us, everyone on the panel and the chat as well. So there we go. You've got a comment. You've started. I know that.
I have. I don't know what this is. Try and keep myself offline this week to stop myself stressing out too much. I don't know what I've said. You're going to have to help me out with that one. But no, I did star this one because it's a fair point, and I think it is important to end on a positive. We were second best. We did not lose. Results like this can win leagues. And yet, I see. Yes, election. Thank you, Highlane. I keep forgetting. Yes, thank you. All right. Fingers crossed we get the right one. But only you can make that decision. We just have to watch and either glare at your stupidity or your brilliance, depending on what you choose. But note, I haven't said what it is. So I could just go with the winner. Who knows? Anyway, this one, results can win the leagues, and they absolutely can. The problem we do have, and it is a problem, is that the other sides, in terms of City and Chelsea, are incredibly good. And it's going to matter hugely what happens there. There is space for a couple of draws. We've already had them, pretty much. We've had Brighton. We've now had Arsenal. We're putting ourselves into a tricky position. We are putting ourselves in a position where if we want to win the league, we are going to need to go and on at least one occasion beat either Chelsea or Manchester City and draw the other game. But all of these things are very doable. And I do believe they're pretty simple fixes. But as I've said 1,000,001 times before on this channel, Connor, managers live and die by their decisions. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. I believe we've got the players to do incredibly well this season. It's whether or not we utilise them in the correct manner and get them all singing in the same hymn sheet. Honestly, it's just finding Nemo. That's all it is. We just need to get them all in the net, swimming in the right direction. And if they all swim in the same direction, we will take that nasty net away. None of them will get caught. And that's it. We'll be able to live a wonderful life under the sea in Andrew's bedroom. So it'd be amazing, wouldn't it? So yes, they could.
I've seen that film as well, so I get the reference.
I'm Finding Nemo?
Yeah, I've seen that.
About the Little Mermaid?
I've no idea what that is.
Oh, shut up. Don't do this.
What is it? Don't tell me this is a really popular.
It was so close to finishing. Oh, my God.
Is it a popular? No, it surely isn't. I've never heard of it.
The Little Mermaid. where the song comes under the sea. This is brilliant because this is actually from the film You Poor Unfortunate Soul, sung by Ursula.
Oh, everyone's having a go at me. This is a
JJ,
popular film, isn't it?
absolutely this. It's like just 100%. Like, so not even what you must have heard of it. It can't be I didn't see it. I didn't see it I can live with, but I've never heard of it.
No, I didn't. I'm going to find an emo. That's what I thought you were on about.
There are two versions of it. Yes, absolutely. There's a life version like they did with The Lion King, but it's amazing. It was written by Hans Christian Andersen, I believe. It's a Danish tale. And it doesn't end well for Little Mermaid, I don't believe, in the Danish one. So you're better off watching the Disney one if you like happy endings. But she's a mermaid, obviously. King Triton, you know, he ain't having none of it. It's like, you're not going to leave here. She's like, but I want to go out where the people are. I want to see them dancing, all that sort of stuff. And she has a lovely little song about it. And then, of course, she finds herself a beautiful man. And then evil Ursula steals her voice. And so she can't sing anymore or walk. And she's just walking around, swimming around like a mute going, can't say anything. And then, thankfully, she gets it back and all is well. But I cannot believe you've not seen it. It's the best song ever, Under the Sea.
I mean, true saying, no, the thing is I am. And this is why I get so shocked on these things when people are so like shocked that I've not heard of it. Because I'm like, is it supposed to be a big thing or what?
Big thing.
No idea.
Like, you can't not have heard of Disney films. Like the more modern ones, but these older ones, they're classics.
I mean, Ema's just put in about The Lion King. Yeah, heard of it. Couldn't tell you what's about, though.
Oh,
obviously lions. But other than that, I have no idea.
Oh, Connor. Have you got Disney Plus?
I don't anymore. I used to.
And these never came. You're flicking through and you never went, oh, Little Mermaid. Like, you might have watched it.
No, but I downloaded it purely just... I'd said this before, didn't I? I literally downloaded it to watch Hamilton. That was about it. And I never really ventured out. Men in Black was on there as well. I watched that a few times while it was on there. Not really a Disney film. I watched that when it was on there. I don't think I watched anything else. I'm 26.
I don't. Exactly this. Like, who downloads a whole streaming service just for 3 hours of some bloke singing about how America began with its wonderful? Oh, mate.
To be fair, if Lin-Manuel Miranda had anything to do with the remake, that might be quite good actually, because he wrote In the Heights as well, and that's a good one. So
there we go. Maybe you can watch that one. And genuinely, as we're on the Disney thing, I read this email and I genuinely read Hannah Montana at the very first time. Have you heard of Hannah Montana?
Heard of. I don't know where from though.
See,
it's just a name you hear.
I don't know what's frustrating me more. Your absolutely appalling knowledge of films or Mark Skinner choosing people to play for Manchester United women. Either way, I'm going to have to go and stick my head in a cold bucket of water because I've got to go on another channel in a minute and I can't be going all riled up like this. It would be the shortest bloody show ever. Ever. She doesn't use forks, you're right. She calls it something funny, like a Hoosier flip or a dingleberry or something like that. She doesn't know it's a fork, Connor. She lives under the sea. I don't have forks under there. Oh my God. It is a dingle hopper. That's like, I'm hoping you're just agreeing with me there now at this point. Yes. You could imagine it, couldn't you? You don't want to come in here, love. I've never seen The Little Mermaid.
Honestly, I think when we get to Christmas and Barry does his Christmas special that we usually do when we get round to that part of thing, there's got to. I reckon this is a whole section of it. I actually learned so much on these shows. This is where when I go to do pub quizzes and things like that, my general knowledge stuff comes from this channel.
You had a Miley Cyrus, right?
Yes, singer.
She was Hannah Montana.
Oh, okay, there we go.
And to be honest,
It's-
like you want to start talking about rubbish Disney, this is rubbish Disney. Like at least with Superman, he took his glasses off. Hello, I'm Superman, and he put them back on again. It's like, oh, I'm Clark Kent, and that made a massive difference because obviously I go like this, we're like, oh, who's this handsome younger brother that Barry's got here? And then I put that on, like, oh, he's a totally different person. At least they did that. Hannah Montana was not even remotely different. The only difference was she wasn't holding a bleeding microphone. Haha, I'm Hannah Montana. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm just Miley. What? Miley Cyrus is the one that's actually honestly. Oh.
Oh, my life. There's still so many of you watching this as well. Fair play to you all for sticking with us. As I said, we do it all on this channel. For those of you who are new around here, because there probably is, there's always new people watching this channel every time we go live. So appreciate you all sticking with us through. I think we've covered everything tonight. But do you know what? I reckon it would catch on because, as I've said before, it would be genuine reactions because I've genuinely not seen any of these things. So you would get my actual reaction for the first time to watching this. So I reckon it would be quite good.
Wouldn't be able to do it on YouTube. You're gonna have to do it on TikTok because to do the reaction, you've got to be watching the video and showing it.
All that, yeah.
I say this all the time. Like my contract never gets. He always tells me my contract's been renewed. I'll tell you, I don't get paid enough for this, Marion. I really don't. So frustrating. Absolutely, yes. Oh, that would be amazing. Can you imagine that? He comes in on the Monday. Oh, do you remember that bit? Do you remember that bit where the voice just flew out from the necklace? Oh, no, sorry, that wasn't the match. Oh, that would be brilliant. Yes, do that.
Yeah, indeed. Condog. There we go. See, we even got channel names.
That is one letter away from being a really tasty treat that went very wrong.
My life. Anyway,
React.
I reckon it'd catch on. But anyway, right, we'll look to wrap it up there because Barry is literally on another show in 3 minutes' time. So we are going to have to wrap this one off. Thanks, everyone, for watching. As usual, all of your comments is amazing to have so many different opinions and so many different thoughts on the game, as always, when we do these match reaction shows. We might be back twice this week. Obviously, we've got Villa coming up on Sunday. So we'll be back on Friday for the Villa preview. We might have another show on Wednesday as well, so keep your eyes peeled for that. For a little bit of a double dose talking about the Arsenal game and maybe the season as a whole, a little bit more there as well. So potentially 3 shows to look out for. What?
This will be the little mermaid.
That's terrible.
No, what's terrible is you've never watched a decent film.
If you like what we're doing, anything else, if you could like to
He's gone.
Can't take any more. Disney Club.
you do that, I'm wrapping the show. Make sure you're liking this video and subscribing if you do enjoy what we're doing over here. It's greatly appreciated. All of our socials are at allforunitedwfc. We shall see you guys later on in the week.